The lone arrival. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with voices. Strange sounds echoed from 100 different species. Some spoke in whispers, others laughed loudly. They had all gathered because of a strange signal at the edge of Council space. A single human warship had crossed the border. For most of the Council, this was a joke. They were used to vast fleets, to hundreds of cruisers and thousands of fighters. And yet here was Earth, sending only one ship. The alien delegates laughed, their voices mocking. One reptilian leader hissed with amusement. "Is this all humanity can send? One small piece of metal against the galaxy?" But not everyone laughed. A young alien officer stood near the edge of the chamber, his eyes fixed on the images floating in the holo display. The ship was not large compared to dreadnoughts of the Council, but there was something about it, something unsettling. It moved with calm precision, as if it did not fear the many fleets that now circled it. The Council debated for hours. Some wanted to destroy it immediately, others wanted to capture it. They called humanity arrogant. They called them foolish. Yet still, the human ship did not move. It simply hung in the dark void of space, silent, waiting. On the bridge of the alien flagship, commanders shouted orders. They sent messages toward the Terran vessel. "Identify yourself, surrender, you are trespassing." Their words echoed through the vast channels, but no answer came. The human ship remained cold and still, its hull scarred with marks from older battles, its weapons quiet, its engines barely glowing. The silence was more frightening than any threat. Many of the younger officers whispered among themselves, "What if this is not weakness? What if it is something else?" But their superiors only laughed. Humans are reckless. They are desperate. They think one ship can frighten the Council. Days passed, the lone warship stayed. Fleets gathered in greater numbers. Alien battleships formed walls of steel and energy around it. Fighters patrolled every angle. Yet the human captain inside, the ship gave no signal, no greeting, no sign of fear, only silence. Rumors began to spread across the galaxy. Ordinary citizens asked questions. Why only one ship? What are the humans planning? Traders whispered in markets. Soldiers murmured. In camps, even the Council leaders felt a shadow of doubt. Inside the Council chamber, arguments grew heated. An insectoid delegate slammed his claws against the table. "We must destroy it now, before others think humanity is bold enough to challenge us." Another older leader shook his head slowly. "No, let us wait. Perhaps humanity is begging for mercy. Perhaps they want us to see their weakness." But the young officer could not stop staring at the hollow image. He saw the ship's scars, its quiet strength, the way it did not tremble even when surrounded. Why would a species send only one ship unless they knew something we did not? He whispered to himself, but nobody listened. Then came the first test. An alien commander launched a probe. A small machine, fast and sharp, it flew toward the human warship with silent speed. The entire Council watched the holoscreens. The probe crossed the void, closing the distance. 100 kilometers, 50, 20, 10, and then, in a blink of light, it vanished. Gasps filled the chamber. The probe did not explode, it did not return. It was simply gone, erased. Some claimed it had been destroyed by stealth weapons. Others said it had been swallowed by the void. But the truth remained hidden. The human ship did not move, did not even glow, as if nothing had happened. Now the Council's laughter began to fade. Unease crept into their voices. The reptilian leader who mocked earlier no longer hissed with joy. Instead, his eyes narrowed. Perhaps we should not rush. Perhaps we must study this. The silence of the warship was more powerful than an army. It waited, patient as stone, like a predator in the dark, and across the galaxy. Fear began to grow. On the lonely bridge of that Terran vessel, a single captain stood quietly, his hands behind his back, his eyes on the endless stars. He remembered the faces of his people. He remembered the decision of Earth. He knew why they had sent only one ship, and he waited for the galaxy to understand the lone arrival had begun, and the galaxy did not yet know the storm that slept within. That silent hull, The silent watch, the fleets of the Council spread wider and wider across the void. They formed a shining cage of ships around the lone Terran warship. Thousands of glowing engines lit up the darkness, yet inside that cage the human vessel remained quiet, unmoving, as if it were carved from the night itself. Every hour new ships arrived, dreadnoughts, cruisers, carriers, each one armed with cannons and plasma lances. The commanders believed that numbers alone would crush the human spirit. Yet no matter how many ships came, the warship did not flinch. Its hull reflected the light of alien suns, silent and still. On alien bridges, officers sent signal after signal. They demanded surrender. They threatened annihilation. They even promised mercy if the humans laid down their arms. But no answer came. Only static drifted back across the channels. The silence itself began to bite deeper than any words. Some commanders thought the ship empty, a ghost ship drifting through the void. But the young officer in the council chamber shook his head, his gaze steady on the hollow image. "No," he whispered. "There is intent in that silence. There is purpose." His voice was soft, yet a few around him felt the chill of his words. The council grew restless. Some feared that waiting too long would make them look weak. Others feared that attacking would open a trap they could not see. The chamber was filled with shouting voices, but the human ship never moved. Its stillness made their arguments feel small. Out in the fleets, ordinary soldiers began to feel it too. Pilots sat in their cockpits staring at the strange ship. Engineers whispered in hangars, "Why are we here? Why is one ship making the council so nervous?" The more they stared at it, the more the mystery grew. At last, one impatient admiral ordered a demonstration. He commanded a squadron of fighters to sweep past the human ship. Their engines blazed as they cut across the void, moving close, daring the vessel to react. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then one by one, the fighters lost power. Their engines darkened, their weapons failed. They drifted like toys, lifeless and cold. The entire fleet watched in shock. The fighters had not been destroyed, only silenced, disabled in seconds, and still the human ship did not move. Not a single cannon fired, not a single word spoken. The young officer clenched his hands, his heart raced. "This is not weakness," he said louder now. "This is control. The humans are watching us, they want us to see." But his warning was drowned out by louder voices demanding answers. The council chamber trembled with anger and fear. "Destroy it," one delegate screamed. "Retreat," another shouted. "Wait," another begged. But the truth was none of them truly understood. Back in the Terran vessel, the captain stood at the command deck, calm as ever, his crew silent behind him. They all knew their orders. They all knew why they had been sent. They listened as the galaxy surrounded them with anger and pride, and they waited. The silent watch stretched on. Days felt like years. Fleets thickened the skies. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. One ship against millions. One voice against countless threats, yet humanity spoke no words, fired no shot, only watched. And in that silence, the galaxy began to doubt itself. Echoes of Earth far away from the council fleets on the blue and green world called Earth. The truth of the lone warship had been written long before it ever crossed into enemy space. Humanity knew it could never build fleets to match the galaxy. The council had thousands of years of empire, millions of ships, endless resources. Earth was still young, still scarred by wars of its own past. When the council first demanded submission, many leaders on Earth argued. Some wanted to bow, others wanted to fight. In secret meetings, the people chose another path. Not surrender. Not foolish war with weak fleets. But something different. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Engineers, scientists, and dreamers worked under the oceans, in hidden bases. In quiet deserts, they built one ship that carried the strength of all their people. It was not just steel and engines. It was Earth's heart, Earth's rage, Earth's will to survive. Its weapons were designed not for show, but for final truth. The ship was given no proud name, only a code whispered by its builders. They called it the Sentinel, not to conquer, but to guard. To remind the stars that humanity was not prey. The captain chosen was not the loudest general or the richest admiral. He was a man who had lost family in the first clashes with alien patrols. He carried sorrow in his heart, but steel in his eyes. Back in the present, as the alien fleet circled, that captain stood still at his command deck. He remembered the faces of the workers who touched every bolt of his ship, the quiet promises of mothers who gave food to the engineers, the tired hands of fathers who welded armor plates. He carried them all in his silence. The galaxy outside only saw one vessel, but inside that ship were echoes of every sacrifice, every dream, every tear shed by a species that refused to kneel. On the council, side doubt continued to grow. Reports arrived from distant sectors. Alien traders spoke of strange human technologies never seen before, of drills in asteroid fields, of whispers that Earth had chosen one weapon instead of thousands. But the leaders laughed away these stories. "How can one ship challenge all of us?" they said, even as fear twisted inside their words. The young officer in the chamber could not stop thinking. He felt the silence of the ship reaching into his thoughts. He remembered the old legends of his own people, stories of hunters who sent only one warrior to face a beast, not because they were weak, but because that one warrior was enough. And he began to wonder, what if humanity has done the same? Meanwhile, in the deep of the Terran vessel, the crew waited without speaking, their hands steady at their stations, their eyes calm. They had trained for this. They knew what would come. The galaxy believed the humans weak, but the crew knew better. Their silence was not emptiness, it was patience. The captain gave no speeches, no orders yet. He only stood, his voice quiet when he finally spoke. "They think one ship means nothing," he said. "Let them watch, let them learn." His crew nodded, not with fear but with trust. And as the fleet swelled around them, as the galaxy mocked, as the council shouted in arrogance, the warship held its silence, carrying with it the weight of Earth, the whispers of history, the choice of a people who refused to be broken. The echoes of Earth waited in the dark, ready to roar. The first roar. The alien fleets no longer laughed, their voices grew sharper, their movements restless. Commanders ordered tighter formations. They believed fear would bend the humans. They believed silence meant weakness. At last the order came from the council chamber. "Test them," the reptilian leader hissed. "Crush their pride with fire." And so the first barrage began. Thousands of beams lit the void. The blackness of space turned bright as a sun. The human vessel disappeared under a storm of plasma and missiles. For long moments the galaxy cheered. Commanders raised their voices. Soldiers shouted victory. Yet when the light faded, the lone warship was still there, its shields glowing faintly, its hull scarred but unbroken. It did not fall. It did not yield. The silence returned, heavier than before, as if the ship itself mocked them without words. Fear spread through alien fleets like a shadow. Still the council refused to believe. "Fire again," they ordered, this time with everything. And the second barrage shook the stars. But in that moment the Terran captain lowered his eyes. He whispered to his crew, "Now." And the ship awakened, panels along its dark hull opened with a low hum. Cannons rose like claws from hidden ports. Energy pulsed through its core, and then came the roar. The first volley cut across the void with thunder. Beams of light sharper than anything the galaxy had known tore through alien dreadnoughts. One, then another, then 5. Exploding and silent. Fire. Fleets that had mocked moments before were now burning wrecks. The roar did not stop. Missiles streaked across the stars with deadly precision. Each strike tore apart warships that had ruled for centuries. Plasma cannons thundered. Alien formations shattered like glass. Screams filled the comms. Orders turned to panic. The young officer in the council chamber stood frozen. His heart pounded as he watched the hollow. "This is not a ship," he whispered. "This is a storm." Others stared in silence, their proud words gone, their arrogance drowned by the roar of Earth. On alien bridges, chaos ruled. Admirals shouted retreat. Captains begged for orders. But the human warship moved with calm grace. Each strike was chosen. Each blast carried purpose. It was not wild rage. It was cold precision. And then came the message, For the first time, the galaxy heard the human voice. It was calm, steady, almost sorrowful. "We asked for peace. You chose war," the captain said. "Now you will understand." And the guns roared again. Entire fleets broke apart. Soldiers fled, carriers exploded in chains of fire. The void was filled with wreckage, and yet the human ship pressed forward without hesitation. One vessel carving a path through the power of 1,000 worlds. The council chamber fell silent. No one laughed now. No one mocked. They only watched as the truth unfolded. Humanity had sent only one ship, because one ship was enough. The first roar of Earth shook the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. The shattered council. The council chamber shook with panic. Voices that once mocked now trembled with fear. Giant holoscreens showed fleets burning in the void. Dreadnoughts reduced to wreckage. Cruisers scattered like dust. Thousands of years of power collapsing in hours. The reptilian leader who had laughed the loudest now clawed at the table in rage. "This cannot be," he hissed. "It is only one ship." But his voice cracked. His words held no strength. Other delegates shouted over him, "Retreat, retreat before it reaches our core worlds in." Another screamed, "Call every fleet, every reserve." Yet even they knew deep inside it would not matter. The young officer stood silent at the edge of the chamber, his eyes wide as the human warship carved through squadrons with surgical precision. He remembered his whisper from before. "This is not weakness." And now all the galaxy was forced to see it. Admirals across the fleets tried to form lines, but each formation shattered under the Terran guns. Ships exploded in silence, their lights blinking out one by one. The galaxy's proudest fleets had become children before a storm. Inside the human vessel, the crew remained calm, their faces steady, their hands firm. They had trained for this moment. The captain stood unmoved, his eyes locked on the endless. "Forter. We will not harm civilians," he said softly. "We will only take their weapons, their pride, their war." And the guns roared again, striking down another carrier, another fortress ship. This choice confused the galaxy even more. Why did the humans not finish them completely? Why did they not burn worlds? Why did they only destroy war machines? The council could not understand. To them, war meant total conquest. But the humans fought with purpose. They fought only to end the threat. Panic spread across star systems. Civilians watched in terror as news spread of the lone human warship cutting through fleets. Some cursed the council for starting the war. Others whispered in awe of humanity. One ship against the stars, and the stars are losing. Back in the chamber, the insectoid delegate slammed his claws against the table. Sparks flew from the strike. "We underestimated them," he said, his voice a mixture of fear and respect. "They will not stop until we listen." The council that had once stood as masters of the galaxy now looked broken, shattered by the roar of Earth's guns. Leaders who once demanded tribute now trembled like frightened children, yet still pride held some of them. "We cannot surrender to primitives," one cried. "If we kneel to Earth, the galaxy will laugh at us." But others knew the truth. The galaxy already laughed at them, laughed at their defeat, laughed at their weakness. The young officer finally spoke louder, his voice carrying through the noise. "It is not we who laugh now. It is humanity who watches us fall. They sent one ship not to mock us but to teach us, and we are too blind to learn." His words cut through the chaos. For a moment the chamber fell silent, and in that silence, the truth was clear. The council was no longer in control. One human warship held the fate of the galaxy in its hands. The shattered council sat in fear, waiting for the next message from Earth, waiting for the storm to decide if mercy still existed. The lesson in fire. The war spread across the void, but it was not the war the council had imagined. Wherever the human warship moved, fleets fell apart, weapons shattered, engines burned. Yet the ship never fired on cities, never turned its guns toward the weak. It struck only at war machines. It tore down armies but left civilians untouched. World after world watched in disbelief. Alien citizens had been told that humans were savage, that humans were reckless. But now they saw something different. They saw a species that fought with discipline, a species that destroyed only what threatened them. The Council sent desperate commands begging fleets to regroup, demanding soldiers to die with honor. But the soldiers themselves had begun to question. Pilots looked at their dead comrades, at their shattered dreadnoughts, and whispered, "Why do we fight them, when they fight only to stop the Council?" On the Council homeworld, panic grew. Markets emptied, streets filled with fear. Leaders argued in the Great Chamber. Some still shouted for war, but their voices were hollow. Every defeat carried the same truth: humanity could not be stopped. Back on the Terran vessel, the captain gave his orders with calm precision. Strike the guns, not the homes. Destroy their pride, not their people. The crew obeyed. Each volley of fire was sharp and measured, each blast chosen with care. They carried not just weapons, but judgment. The galaxy began to see a pattern. Everywhere the human ship fought, it left survivors, it left witnesses, it left stories. And those stories spread faster than fire. They could have killed us all, one alien officer whispered to his people. But they spared us, they spared our families. And the story spread from one system to another. Soon whispers grew into questions. Questions grew into doubts. And doubts grew into change. Civilians turned against the Council. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Entire fleets surrendered rather than face the roar of the human ship. The young officer in the chamber stood again, his voice steady now. "Do you not see? This is their lesson. This is their fire. They want us to understand that power is not only in destruction but in restraint. They are teaching us what we never learned." His words echoed through the chamber. Some delegates bowed their heads, unable to deny it. The galaxy had always believed power was measured in numbers, in planets conquered, in fleets counted, but humanity had shown another truth. Power could be one ship, one voice, one choice to stand against the stars and still show mercy. The lesson in fire was clear. The galaxy trembled not just because of the guns, but because of the meaning behind them. And in that trembling silence, the Council finally began to realize they had lost not just a battle, but their place as masters of the stars. The galaxy learned too late. The warship drifted into the heart of Council space. The fleets that once roared with pride now lay in ruins. The skies were filled with wreckage. The silence of defeat stretched across the stars. The chamber of the Council was no longer filled with laughter or shouting, only fear. The human vessel stopped outside the Council's own homeworld, its weapons glowing faintly, not firing, only watching. It had cut through millions, yet now it waited again, silent as stone. In the great chamber, the delegates trembled. The reptilian leader lowered his head. The insectoid delegate clicked his mandibles in defeat. Voices that once demanded war now whispered prayers for mercy. No one dared speak of pride anymore. Then the message came. The captain's voice, calm and steady, filled every chamber, every ship, every world. "We asked for peace," he said. "You answered with war. We sent one ship, because one ship was enough. Remember this. Humanity does not seek conquest. But we will never kneel." The Council had no answer. Their pride was shattered. Their fleets gone. Their people in fear. They signed the peace, their hands shaking, their voices hollow. The galaxy that once ruled over Earth now bent under the weight of one warship. Across the stars, stories spread like fire. Civilians whispered to each other. The humans sent only one ship. Some spoke with awe, some with fear, some with respect. But all understood. The galaxy had learned too late. On the bridge of the Terran vessel, the crew stood in silence. The captain closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered Earth, the workers who built the ship, the families who sacrificed. The voices of those who said one ship could carry the will of billions. He whispered, "It is done." The warship turned, its engines burning softly. It left the heart of Council space and vanished into the void. Behind it lay wreckage and fear, but also a new understanding. The galaxy had believed humanity weak, small, foolish, yet they had learned. One ship was enough to break empires. One voice was enough to shake the stars. One choice was enough to change history. The galaxy learned. Too late, but it learned forever.